Thank you to Third Wheel Podcast Studio in LA for the great editing work on our show every week. If you're ever in LA and need a studio to use, they have full audio and video capabilities and awesome engineers. They also have a Seattle location coming soon. And of course, if you're just looking for production and editing, they have you covered there too. Check them out online at thirdwheelpodcaststudio.com. What's up, guys? It's Joey Thurman. Here's another episode of the Fatter Future Podcast. I have a young buck in front of me, 22-year-old Matt Wan. And he wanted to drop out of this school. I'm not quite sure you've ever heard of it. It's called, how do you pronounce it? Harvard? What's it? Harvard?
Well, we say Boston generally. When people ask where you go to school, you just say Boston because you don't want the conversation, like when you're on a bus or a plane or whatever, you just say you go to Boston.
Yeah. See, like I went to Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and they're like, where's that? I'm like, I went to college in St. Louis and I played hockey. Yes, these teeth are real. So Matt dropped out of Boston or Harvard. I've been there. I've interviewed David Sinclair at his aging lab at Harvard. Beautiful campus, actually.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So Matt dropped out to start a nutrition supplement company called Momentous. And what would you call it, man? Well, first of all, thanks for coming on. But would you call it? You're a supplement company. You're a life enhancement. I know a lot of people don't saying supplement. What's your story?
So we like to describe it as a performance nutrition company. And most of the products we make at this time would generally be classified as supplements. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty fair way to describe it.
Performance nutrition. There you go. Okay. So I've actually been, you guys know, I've been trying these products. I try everything on this podcast. And you have a wide range of products. But why drop out of school and start a company that's one of the hardest markets to get into? I mean, you go into GNC, your Vitamin Shop, or anywhere now, you've got thousands and thousands of protein powders and collagens and everything else. Why start a company and go into such a saturated market?
Great question. Well, to speak to the market itself, it is, to your point, very saturated. And if I was passionate about a different space, if I had an opportunity to pursue in a different space, then perhaps I would have. So I certainly didn't choose this market or this opportunity because I thought it was going to be easy, right? But rather because I thought that it was something I would really enjoy working hard on, and ultimately dropped out because I felt like if I had the same opportunity at the end of my 4 years there to work on this startup in the position that we were in, then I would have taken that opportunity. So I felt like I could really use those, what ended up being sort of a 3-year difference, a lot more effectively or productively by learning on the job.
Yeah. So, I mean, you say you had this opportunity, but did somebody approach you, or were you kind of in the, supplement realm? Were you athletic? How did you take the opportunity? Because most 18, 19-year-olds aren't like, hey, I'm going to start making protein powders.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair question as well. So to back up all the way, I guess the story really started because I was fortunate enough at a pretty young age to be exposed to some really, really great resources in health and performance. Mm-hmm. And they taught me a ton about health and nutrition, and supplements being a pretty small fraction of that, frankly. I just had a natural interest in it through my own sort of health and lifestyle interests. And what made me start looking into the supplement business in particular was when I was, again, fortunate enough to have a peek inside an NFL locker room. Mm. And basically what I saw there was that the products we're used to seeing all over the sidelines were not the products that the players were actually using on a day-to-day basis. They were products that, I'd never seen before from brands I'd never heard of. And that if I wanted to go find on any type of retail shelf that I just wouldn't have seen before. I felt like a pretty well-educated consumer, and I had never heard of these brands. So ultimately, I felt like the opportunity was to create a line of products that appealed to people like me, people who are wanting to use what the pros were using, but up until this point had been, mostly buying whatever the top rated product on Amazon was, or whatever the best selling product on the shelf at GNC or Whole Foods or Costco or wherever it is that you do your shopping. So that's really what made me start looking into it. That was right at the end of high school. And by the time I got to start thinking about dropping out, we didn't have, we had a very unimpressive business, but there was some structure. We had a product line. We had a bit of a brand in place. There was, some people behind us and in terms of supporters and financial backers. So we had some opportunity in the sense that I wasn't going to, I was going to be busy from day one in terms of dropping out. I wasn't going to drop out and then say, okay, where do we start? It was more like, if I don't drop out, we got to go get a CEO.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Because the supplement industry, as you mentioned, I think people are hopefully a lot smarter now, where if they're watching TV and they're seeing, I don't know, somebody eating I will mention brands, Campbell's Chunky Soup, and the mom's on there. You really think they're taking that down before they're going out on the field? One, they're probably going to shit their pants. And that's just not, unless they're looking for the sodium ahead of time, that might be good. So yeah, they're not going to McDonald's. They're not going to Disney World after the Super Bowl. Well, maybe they're, if Disney World is paying them. But that's the thing. You see a lot of this stuff, and I think people now, we're just so desensitized. They're like, oh, whoever. Who's the new golden boy? Who's the Chiefs quarterback now?
Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes. Prior to that, it was Aaron Rodgers. Seems like he's being phased out. Go Packers. But is Mahomes really going to State Farm? Is that his insurance, or is he going and having all these policies being recommended for it on TV? He's just cashing the check. And I think a lot of these athletes, that's what they're doing. And it's nice to see you guys are in a lot of NFL locker rooms and sport locker rooms, right? You're being used everywhere, and you're NSF certified. So I want to talk about what that specifically means, because people don't know, peptides, NSF certified, or Isolyze, all these sort of different names, right? How do you get a product like this in an NFL locker room or a professional sports league?
It really comes down to how we created the products in the first place. So to your point, it is really hard to know heads or tails in this market. There's so much terminology. There's so much more information out there than you really want to spend your time, or frankly is worth you spending your time trying to get into. And so what we tried to do is just, basically ask somebody smarter, right? Ask somebody who is more qualified. So we put together a group of essentially performance experts, right? So dietitians or strength coaches, performance directors, they've got a variety of titles, but basically most of these teams in the major leagues all have some sort of system in place for organizing how they, manage their players' performance, right? Between the medical staff, physical therapy, strength and conditioning, and what goes on the field ultimately. And so within that staff, there's generally somebody who is very qualified and makes the decision for the team in terms of what types of snacks and supplements and foods that they're going to be buying, and including what ends up in the cafeteria, right?
Right.
So those are not people whose names you'd recognize, but they do really know their shit. Mm-hmm. So we went to them and basically said, if you could make a product for your guys, what would you put in it? And so as a result of that, they ended up using it. We thought we were going to get the product that was going to be just the best, right? We wanted to have the best product that ultimately would attract this wider consumer base. But what ended up happening was it ended up being really attractive to these professional teams as well, because they really sort of built it for themselves in a way. And so it's become very much a part of our business model, actually, that we don't sponsor any professional or collegiate sports teams, but it's about a third of the business historically is direct sales to those groups. So again, we don't sponsor any of them, but when they actually train on a day-to-day basis, and even when they travel on the road, this is the product that they're using with the guys, on and off the field.
Yeah, that's really smart, because Yeah, there's a lot of people in sports dietitians and strength coaches, and I've got buddies that train for Blackhawks and everybody else. And
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And somebody like me, when I was working with the athletes, like, yes, they're often recommending some specific type of product that isn't going to be on the shelves. But how are you getting NSF certified? Can you talk a little bit about what that is when people see what NSF certified is?
Yeah, so NSF Certified is this, so NSF itself is this third party group that most of the major leagues in the United States, I think all of them at this point, including the NCAA, have sort of adopted as their standard for third party testing with dietary supplements and other types of nutritional products. So it's actually written into the collective bargaining agreements for some of these leagues that the teams are not allowed to buy products for the players that don't go through this process. And
Okay.
that happened because they had so many instances of these athletes blaming positive tests. Whether or not that was true or not, I can't say, but blaming positive drug tests on these supplements that they were
I can
taking and saying,
say they're probably full of shit and they probably know that. Go ahead.
right, well, there's some truth to it. There's probably some bullshit as well. But I mean, at the same time, it's really not uncommon for these supplements to have things that are not listed on the label.
Sure.
And mostly that's not the result of some sort of malintent. Normally, that's just careless manufacturing practices. That something from another product this group was producing ended up in there somehow, or the ingredients were just not sourced carefully. And
Sure.
so the reason that you want to care about NSF is that you want to really be sure that what you're seeing on the label is what you're actually going to be consuming. And so for the leagues, when they adopt that NSF standard, now it's not an excuse anymore for the athletes. It doesn't matter if you say it was a tainted supplement because we bought NSF certified supplements for you. So if you went out of your way to buy something that you knew put you at risk, then that's your fault. But from a consumer's perspective, like you and me, I mean, we're not being drug tested,
Right.
but that doesn't mean I want stuff that's in my product that I don't know about or that could potentially be dangerous. So do
Yeah.
I care about a drug test? Not really. But do I want my products third party tested? Absolutely. And I mean, literally, unless I probably knew the people at the company personally, I probably wouldn't be taking a supplement that does not have that type of certification.
Yeah. Actually, every single supplement I take, I either know the owner or CEO, or I've known them for years, or not a necessarily specifically medical doctor, but like a medical engineer or some doctor that deals with peptides and things like that look into supplements. Most of your medical doctors aren't going to know what the hell a lot of this stuff is because they just don't have the training. It's not their fault. It's just the medical system. They don't have that. But yeah, for me,
Yeah, of course.
like, for example, we feed our 2.5-year-old son nothing but organic, and some people are like, well, you don't necessarily know if it has to be organic or the field next to it. I'm like, I'd rather take the chance that it's cleaner and doesn't have pesticides and stuff sprayed on it than knowing that it probably has pesticides sprayed on it. Like, so I mean, if you want to look for a product that's NSF certified, that makes a ton of sense. Or you want to go to Walmart and buy something off the shelf for $15 because you want to save money, then I mean, that's your prerogative. But for me, I mean, I look at the ingredients and everything. We were talking on the pre-interview that I got some products from you guys too, and it took me a long time to actually agree to get them. And then when I tried them and then look at the ingredients, like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Now, when someone is choosing a protein powder, I mean, what's your main seller? Protein powder?
So we sell the most protein powder, but the best selling SKU for us, meaning if you just look at like one individual, flavor, is actually the collagen peptides.
Okay. All right. I want to get to that. But so what's the difference between a plant-based protein powder as far as if you looked at the delivery system and absorption rate? Because you guys have plant-based and you have a whey-based protein powder, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference in delivery system? Is there certain ingredients people should be looking at to choose?
So do you mean with respect to our product specifically or just generically between a whey and a plant-based?
Your product specifically, and then we can touch on the whey and a plant-based, but what's making your products above and beyond, another whey or another plant-based powder?
So I think that comes down to the sourcing. mostly. There are a number of reasonable NSF certified options on the market, albeit not super popular ones. I think the biggest difference for us with these products is the quality of the sourcing and the taste that results from that. Because again, with the plant-based, there are a couple of other NSF certified options on the market, and even some other ones with pretty reasonable retail distribution. So it's not necessarily difficult to get your hands on them, if you will. But they just taste. I mean, I don't want to call out any brands by name here, but really, really difficult to sort of stomach consistently. And the other thing you want to look for in a plant-based protein is trying to find something that is what they call a complete protein. Mm-hmm. So the vast majority of plant proteins in of themselves are not complete proteins, and then they don't contain all 9 essential amino acids. So if you have a product that combines a variety of plant-based sources, then you're much more likely, and obviously we went out of our way to ensure that you have this combination of sources that add up to a complete protein source, meaning they have all of those 9 essential amino acids. The downside to having a product that has a whole bunch of sources, and the reason that we only went with 2 sources in our plant-based protein, is that sourcing is difficult, right? It's the most difficult thing about creating a good product. And so if you go from 2 sources to 4 sources to 6 sources of protein, the complexity in trying to ensure that each of those sources are really, really well and carefully managed each time you order them increases exponentially.
That makes sense. I mean, because when plant-based proteins originally came out, and when he was talking about essential amino acids, so that's one knock where you hear people say that they're vegan, vegetarian, if they're eating fish, or maybe they're going to have some eggs, they don't have to worry about that as much. But people eating vegan are like, okay, you got to have your rice, and you got to have your beans and legumes. So you're getting all of these essential amino acids. So that's essentially what he's referring to there. But when these plant-based things came out years ago, and there was only 1 or 2 products on the market, you couldn't put them in a protein shaker. You couldn't shake them up because it'd just be drinking like a big ball of nasty powder, and it literally tasted like grass. So I mean, I've got your plant-based one here, and you don't have that many ingredients.
No, it's 2 sources. Yeah, it's a pea protein and a rice protein.
Yeah, and a pea protein actually absorbs quite readily, because that's the knock of plant-based proteins versus whey, because a whey protein is going to absorb much faster. But combining these 2 protein sources, I mean, the protein that I take most of the time, unless I'm doing some weird diet for the podcast, is a plant-based protein. And this does actually taste good, which is interesting, because most of the time when I was having plant-based products, I'd have to throw in throw it in a smoothie and put a banana or something in there to make it palatable whatsoever. What about your whey protein powder? What should people be looking for with that?
So ideally, you want to have, for the most part, if you can find it, a whey isolate. That's going to be a product that is gone through an additional layer or step of sort of ultrafiltration beyond that which is required to create a whey concentrate. So as a result of that, you're going to end up with something that has dramatically less sort of excess sugars or fats left over from the natural milk state. And actually, our product is, it's been filtered to the point where it's not certified as such, but I could almost guarantee if you've got a lactose intolerance, you should be able to take this product no problem. If you've got a challenge with whey, for example, that's a different thing. Obviously, the product is entirely whey, but if you've got an issue with lactose, there's pretty much no sugar in the product from the milk anymore. So this product should actually be okay for you. That's obviously a really great sign. And then looking at, again, the sourcing. So we try to get products that are entirely grass-fed. So for us specifically, we use a German grass-fed whey isolate. And that's actually because the guys who created our products and helped us decide what sources to look at actually prefer the dairy farming practices in most of the EU countries to those in the United States, just because of the stricter farming standards.
Is that a difference between the A1 and the A2 protein? is that a lot of people talk about in the States that the milk that we get from the cows in the States has been pumped with so many hormones that actually the protein type is different from that. If you've even actually there's an A2 milk company that's their whole thing. Is there anything behind that, and that why they prefer the European whey based?
Yeah, it's part of it. It's actually a great point. You clearly know a lot more about this than most people. So, when you are going to the store and you're buying milk, oftentimes the organic or some of the more, quote, natural looking brands say, no RGBST, no artificial growth hormones or the like. When you go to Europe, most of the products don't say that because it's not allowed.
Right.
So it's not an option. It's another one of these things where we've got these ingredients that the EU has taken a much more aggressive, I suppose you could say conservative would be another way to characterize it, but from the perspective of health and human safety,
I would just say
yeah,
safe.
they have erred on the side of safety with those types of ingredients. And so you just don't get that with the farms over there.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at products, even like makeup and moisturizers and anything that come from Europe, they've got much less ingredients. And I don't know, last time I looked, there was hundreds of ingredients that were banned in beauty products in the EU that aren't even allowed here. So I don't know. I just feel like Europeans are a little bit better than we are. It's okay, but there's a lot of shit that you have to be worried about. And like everybody always says, when you go to Europe, and my wife's family is Greek, if I eat a pizza here, I feel like a bloated mess. But I'll go to Greece, in the little town that they have their second home in, and I'll eat an entire pizza, and they're looking at me like I'm just a gluttonous American. Completely. Like I'll order it, and they'll say in Greek, like, "Well, it's a big pizza. It's meant for a family." And I'm like, "No, it's just for me." So I'll eat the whole thing, and then I'll order a crepe with ice cream. And yes, I'm full, but I don't have that like just nasty bloated feeling. Whereas if I would have a pizza here, and it's probably just where they're sourcing all their ingredients, and I'm sure the cheese is much different, and the chicken, they just went and cracked its neck out back and cooked it right there and put it on the pizza or whatever the hell we're eating. So yeah, I think Europeans are a little bit better than Americans. I don't care if you get upset with me for saying that. So
well, some of their governments seem to be functioning a lot more effectively, and
sure
as a result of
about.
that, you're going to get some rules that are better at protecting people's safety.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Now the medical system in Greece, not a great thing. So I would definitely not go.
Right. Look, it's not like, I mean, they're not all the same governments, right? Like obviously they're not all managed exactly the same. There's some significant differences over there as well. But that to me is a very good way of describing eating in Europe sometimes, because I find the biggest challenge there is the portion size.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just everything is. I mean, because I eat a lot. I have 4,000. I'm 6'3", 210, and the portion size for me, like I said, like order the pizza, and then I see a family of 6 eating that same pizza, and then they all get on the same moped together, which is just funny to me.
Yeah, but you look at the pizza, right, and it's like this is like a small pizza.
It's tiny. So
this would not be a medium at any New York restaurant.
Yeah, and their dinner is at like 11 p.m. I'm like, what? That kid's 2 years old. Why is he up there? I'm like, no, he'll start smoking in a year or two. All right, enough of that tangent. But yes, I do feel better when I go over and I eat food in Greece. Now let's talk about collagen. Collagen is huge now. And I know you guys have a collagen peptide product. As you said, it's your number one SKU. But now, collagen, can we actually take collagen from a supplement and can it actually help the collagen in our body? Or is this just something where collagen I know a lot of products are very cheap. So I want you to speak about collagen in general, but then also what differentiates your product as well. I mean, taking collagen, will it actually help my skin and elasticity? And will it actually, let's talk about it. I want to be more attractive anyways. So it's going to help me be prettier.
I don't know that it's going to help you be prettier, but the evidence in terms of supplemental collagen and driving collagen synthesis, i.e., actually creating new, collagenous tissues, either in joints, tendons, ligaments, or skin, hair, and nails, is really, really strong. Really, really strong for supplemental collagen. And so in terms of taking the product and ultimately having an effect on the body, I think the science is pretty darn strong in that respect. But the challenge, like a lot of things, is that your body's super complicated. So this is a supplement, and ultimately, it's a small part of a much bigger picture. And so are you going to be is this a very convenient way of increasing the collagen intake into your diet in a way that doesn't require you to, you know, eat chicken skins 5 times a day? Yes, it's definitely a very easy way to do that. But if you actually want to see or feel an effect, it's going to take time. And you're going to have to take care of yourself in the other avenues as well.
Yeah, because I mean, yes, you're right. You can boil your own bone broth and eat the marrow and have the chicken skin and go ahead and have chicken liver and all these different things. And people say like you can get this from food, but let's be honest, Americans are lazy and we want things quick.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have a little bit more time now with 2020 being home more. But why collagen peptides? Can you specifically speak of what? Because there's collagen that people can purchase. What's the difference between collagen and collagen peptides?
So peptides just refers to a chain of amino acids. And there is some clinical research to suggest that certain types of peptides are more effective in generating collagen synthesis in specific types of tissue. So specifically with our product, we've sourced actually a trademarked ingredient, again from Germany, although that's just a coincidence, to be honest with you, that has been specifically and clinically researched to support collagen synthesis in tendons and ligaments. So those are the things that athletes care about most in terms of their health and longevity and oftentimes return to play as well. And to your point, you can consume a collagen-rich diet, and in fact, probably should. But the reason you should consider a collagen supplement, if it's something you're particularly concerned or passionate about, is similar to the reason I think you should consider any other type of protein powder, and that it's not like you can't consume enough protein from food. It's that it's a really, really convenient way to supplement with it at a time that optimizes the absorption of the product. So you can actually, instead of having a huge amount of collagen, rich foods all at once on a consistent basis, you can lean into the research that supports, 15 grams or more of collagen peptides as being, significantly better for triggering that collagen synthesis, and have a very easy way of ingesting that on a consistent basis. And so again, you can have a collagen rich diet. It's very difficult to do that in a low cost, flavorless powder that you can just mix into your coffee every morning. Just like you could have enough protein throughout your day, but sometimes it's very hard to have a very easily digestible, absorbable 25 or 30 grams of protein right after you leave the weight room.
Right. And especially if people yes, I recommend all my clientele to eat food when possible, but if you're on the run and you need to have a protein shake and, add some collagen to it, if you're going to work out again in 3 hours, especially a professional athlete, and you're having a high fat meal, that meal is going to be digesting for 4 to 6 hours and more, and it's going to feel like you're going to vomit on the field. So, I mean, I think you, as an owner of a supplement company, it's nice to hear you say that, and not just I guess you said you should have a collagen rich diet, but supplement it and intersperse it when it makes the most sense for you and your body. Because I mean, yeah, you can take 15 grams of collagen in one of your servings, so that just makes a lot of sense. I even do an Instagram video where I did a blueberry protein collagen. It looked like, as I do a series called Ugly Dude from a Food, it was ugly, but it's delicious. But I was able to get it in there because I think I was going in between clients or something. But It's good.
Right. So again, it's not like you can't get these types of foods or nutrients elsewhere in your diet. It's that a supplement is a dramatically easier, and sometimes, especially when there's some sort of sensitivity or evidence that timing is of significance, which there is with collagen, it can be a much more effective way of getting that nutrient in.
Now, what does the research say with athletes and taking collagen? Is it going to make sense? Because I know that if somebody's having a meal, now nutrient timing, if you're a professional athlete, yes, they're going to want to time their food and have it like pretty much right after their workout and beforehand, and something small, and then eating several times a day, just so that they're getting that nutrient absorption to prepare themselves, or that glycogen replenishment. But what does the research say for your average individual? When should they take collagen? And if they're just going to your workout class, or they're going to their trainer, when should they take the collagen?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I've actually got probably two answers for you here. There's sort of what the research says, and then there's sort of, I think, maybe the more practical application of that. So the research, I think Keith Barr out of UC Davis is probably one of the more respected researchers in the field around this type of nutrient, and around at least specifically around collagen and tendons and ligaments, right, as it relates to athletes. And his research indicates that the most effective time, again, to generate collagen synthesis is actually if you take 15 grams or more of collagen peptides before you stress the joint, meaning that they were injecting the athletes, I shouldn't say injecting, they were having the athletes ingest the product before they actually train, as opposed to during or after. That's how a lot of the professional teams that we sell our products to use it. Yeah. They give it to the guys in basically these pretty low volume, shots, sometimes with like a little bit of orange juice, sometimes with coffee, whatever it is, or beet juice even is another common one we see. Yeah. So that the guys basically drink that as they're walking out onto the practice field or the court. And that, again, is what the research points to. What I'd say for the average consumer is that research is applicable to you, but the more applicable thing is that you should use it consistently. Sure. I mean, pretty much like any other sort of health or lifestyle practice or diet or supplement or go down the list, right? The most important thing is consistency. So if consuming collagen right before you work out, either in your coffee or a shake or juice, is not something that you like or enjoy, then you just need to find however it is that you enjoy consuming the product most consistently. And for a lot of people, that's like with their morning coffee. That's probably the most popular way that we see the average consumer use it. And so that's why I say I sort of have two answers, because there's what the science says about, specifically on this, what like at the moment, what is the most effective way to consume it? But of course, over a long time horizon, there's unanimous consent that consistency is just by far and away the most important thing. Sure. So for the vast majority of consumers, I'd say whenever you think you're going to enjoy taking it the most and you're not going to forget it, just do that.
Okay. And the coffee, the heat of the coffee isn't going to denature the collagen at all, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I know that a lot of people that originally, then they were like heating up their protein powders back in the day, but now a lot of them are a lot more heat resistant, if you will, where you'd be fine, where you can make your like protein pancakes or whatever the hell you will.
Yeah. I mean, collagen, truthfully, I mean, it's mostly a raw collection of amino acids. I mean, that's why when you open our product, it's a white powder. It is totally flavorless. I mean, when I say flavorless, it's genuinely flavorless. Like, try it in water. There's almost no smell or taste to it. And if you compare that to something like a Vital Proteins or maybe another leading product on the market, it's unflavored in the sense that they haven't added any flavor. Yeah. But when you add it to water, there's a real smell to it. I won't describe it, but there is a real bovine-like smell product.
Drinking a cow.
Yeah, in some ways you are, right? I mean, that's where it's sourced from.
Sure. All right. So you have a new product that came out, and people, they want to get smarter. They want to be more efficient. You just came out with Momentous Brain Drive, and Momentous, by the way, people, Momentus. Brain drive. Can you tell me about this? Because a lot of different B vitamins and things that are present in food. And as we touched on earlier before, there's no way to get all these. But why create a product called Brain Drive?
Great question. So I guess we started to think this was an interesting category for us as we came to understand our customers' broader relationship with food and supplements. So although our products are all created with really specific purposes in mind, our customers are ultimately taking them because they want to feel good or they want to feel better. And so one way of improving that sense of well-being is helping them recover from their workouts and therefore do more of the activities they like. And another way of helping them is actually setting them up to approach their day-to-day lives with a well-fueled brain. So, I mean, it won't surprise anybody listening this to learn that, like every other organ or tissue in your body, the function of your brain is directly impacted by the nutrients you consume or the lack thereof. So Brain Drive is basically designed to deliver the nutrients critical to the production of these compounds we call neurotransmitters, and specifically the neurotransmitters dopamine and acetylcholine, which are responsible for feelings of focus, motivation, positivity, learning, and processing speed. So all of that is a very long-winded way of saying that we think our customers are thinking about their nutrition outside of just the workout itself. They're really thinking about it in sort of a 24-hour cycle, 24/7, 365, if you will. And so in terms of improving their well-being, we think actually helping their brain is, I mean, as important, if not more important than any type of specific joint or muscle or the like.
Yeah. So would this be considered a nootropic?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, a nootropic would technically be defined as, a supplement or drug that supports brain function.
Okay.
So I think this would technically fall into the nootropic category, although truthfully, we're not sure whether or not that's a term that our customers are going to jump at.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people hear the word nootropic and they either don't know what it means, so they assume it's not for them,
Right.
or they hear it and they assume that it's, some type of, caffeine pill that's going to make them wired for the rest of the day. And yeah, there are definitely products that meet those criteria, but that's not what this is.
Yeah, actually, you don't have any caffeine in yours whatsoever,
No.
which was interesting. Because I've been taking it for a week and a half or 2 weeks now, and I've been playing with the dosage, what I take it with as well. I mean, the serving is what, 2? So I'll do 2 some days just with water. Some days I'll do 1 with coffee just to kind of see how I feel. And I did take it today, kind of in preparation for this, but I took 1 with a little bit of coffee, and then I take a half a pill of no-dose before a workout. So I know exactly how much caffeine that I'm getting. No, I don't get paid by no-dose, but no-dose, if you want to pay me, go ahead. So I'll do that. And I do.
Now that's a nootropic.
So yeah, no, I definitely do feel a much better sense of alertness. But if somebody was just to take like a B vitamin, what's the difference between them taking a B vitamin? Because you got B6 and you have niacin and different things in there. What's the difference between them taking that versus your combination?
So the B vitamins are just one component of what goes into the product. I mean, we could talk specifically about what makes for a good B complex, but there are a variety of reasons that somebody might want to take that. Maybe it's something that they think they're naturally lacking in their diet because they're not getting B12 from red meat or something like that, or some other type of reasons. Some B vitamin deficiencies can actually be hereditary. So there are a whole bunch of reasons that you might want to take a B complex in of itself. But the reason we include them is because they're necessary nutrients, again, in some of these processes that regulate how the cells in your brain communicate. So it's a very, very sciencey, complicated process. That's probably not worth getting too far into on this, but B vitamins are actually only about half of the ingredients that come into the product. And truthfully, it's probably some of the less differentiated ones, at least in the sense that there are a lot more supplements on the market that contain high quality B vitamins. So on top of those B vitamins, we're combining an additional set of, again, these sort of cofactors or precursors to dopamine and acetylcholine production. So namely, you're looking at acetylcarnitine, a trademarked form of acetylcholine called cognizin. You're looking at an extract of Bacopa monnieri, which is an herb, and a natural source of something called L-Dopa, which again is a metabolic precursor to dopamine. And then L-tyrosine as well is another really critical compound actually in the production of dopamine. It's an amino acid.
And a lot of these things actually are being used to help with Alzheimer's and dementia and memory disorders as well.
Yeah, L-Dopa in particular is a very common treatment.
So what's your goal for this product? I mean, you think people to get up and take in the morning? Is this something that they need to be taking every single day? As they take it, are they going to need to take more? What is your research pointed to?
There's no evidence that you should need to take more of this product over time. And in fact, the opposite, because this is a product that's benefits accumulate over time, a lot like many of our other products, in that it really does support long-term brain health, and that you want to have these nutrients in abundance in the tissue in your brain, in the tissue in your body. And so just taking one capsule, on one day is going to spike that, but it's not going to spike it in a way that, consistent dosage and supplementation over the course of months or even years is going to, right? Yeah. So it's actually the opposite effect, in my opinion.
That makes a ton of sense, because as we feed our body proper nutrients, and it's like when someone starts eating well for a few weeks and they go back to having, I don't know, tacos or Dairy Queen or something, they feel like shit, and then they start going back to eating something else. Their body is used to those good nutrients. And is it okay if someone's taking this for a few weeks and they kind of stop for a week or so? They should be more efficient than they were prior to, or are they going to feel like they're going to, for lack of a better sense, be crashing a little bit?
It's a fair question, and I probably don't have a good sort of blanket answer for you. I think the better question in that circumstance is sort of, what does the rest of their diet and lifestyle probably look like? So 3 or 4 weeks of consumption is probably not enough to have, a real long lasting impact on the nutrient balance for yourself. But, if you're also consuming, then I think you're probably going to feel pretty good over those couple of weeks, and probably not notice a huge difference coming off of it. Again, assuming this is somebody like you, right, who's like, okay, yeah, I'm not taking Brain Drive anymore, but like I'm still eating great every day. If you're somebody who eats like shit and then you stop taking Brain Drive, then like you're probably not getting B vitamins elsewhere in your diet. You're probably not getting carnitine or tyrosine elsewhere in your diet. You're probably not getting great sources of choline. You're not having, eggs or red meat regularly. So yeah, if you stop taking the supplement, you might notice a difference.
And you kind of answered my question that was going to come up, because somebody like me who's very attuned with what I put into my body, and I'm taking something like this, like I don't feel like I'm going to notice as much as like this world changing thing, right? Because I'm already eating a diet that's got a lot of these things. But someone that probably isn't, do you feel like they're going to notice more than someone?
Possibly. Again, I think it's the same sort of dynamic where your baseline might be a lot higher than an average person in terms of where you sit with a lot of these nutrients. But at the same time, somebody whose diet is not particularly great is oftentimes not particularly consistent either. So the challenge with taking a supplement and expecting immediate result is that it might be the result of taking that supplement and feeling great. It might be because you just had a better breakfast that one day and your body's like, oh my God, I had a great breakfast. Like, why don't we do this every day? Like, I feel so much better. And then you take the supplement the next day and you have frosted flakes for breakfast and you feel like shit. Like, guess what? There's a little bit more to it than that.
Right. Your body doesn't feel great. Okay. I had to.
I should have picked a different cereal.
It was right there on a tee. All right, Matt, one more question.
Sure.
Where do you feel like the future of not only your company, but the supplement industry is headed?
Oh man. I don't think it's sort of one direction. Ultimately, because I think that you have to think about what type of consumers you're looking to serve. I think for our brand in particular and the types of consumers that we're looking at, I think the most promising areas of growth are going to be brain health, which this product definitely fits into that category. Gut health and longevity are probably the three most interesting areas for this end of the market, which is generally, truthfully, for lack of a better term, sort of more of an educated consumer. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, I think there's also going to continue to be a real portion of the market that is, very much interested in lower price products, very accessible products. So I think you're going to continue to see probably some relatively undifferentiated products seeing pretty good success at the lower end of the markets that are probably, some type of celebrity-backed brands. People who have really powerful brands in of themselves coming out with, their own product lines or the like, and trying to capture a big percentage of their audience that's like, oh, I'm just making this up, but like, oh, like I'm already consuming, gold standard Whey, like Kevin Hart's is the same price. Like I may as well try his because his is, cookie flavored.
Sure. Cookies.
So I don't know if that answers your question. I'd say that there's a whole bunch of different directions the market's going in, but for our side of the market in particular, I think brain health, gut health, and longevity, they're most interesting categories.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I would throw in a recovery as well. I think recovery is starting to get huge, which you could kind of roll all these into it. If you're having more longevity, you're having more brain health, you're having more gut health, your body's going to perform better and recover much better. All right, Matt, where can people,
great point.
Where can people find you? Where can they find your company?
So the company is livemomentous.com and at livemomentous on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is what is it? I think it's at _Matt.Wan.
I love how you didn't know your own Instagram handle.
Well, Matt Wan wasn't available, so all I know is that it had to be some obscure collection of punctuation around Matt Wan. I have a Chinese last name, so the chances that I had the first account were very low.
Yeah, that other jerk, Matt Wan, took it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't met another Instagram Matt Wan yet. Maybe I should try to reach out.
Okay, well, Matt Wan, the other Matt Wan, if you're listening, reach out to Matt, some other, not knowing his own Instagram handle, Matt Wan.
If you're willing to trade me your Instagram handle, I'm willing to pay up to $30.
$30. All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on. I'm Joey Thurman. This was another episode of the Fatter Future Podcast. Remember, don't be a fatty, FADDY. Be a part of the future.